Welcome to the Dennis Report. I'm Dennis Atchison. One of the conversations in this province that is ongoing and at some point needs some resolution is the issue of language in this province. Can the Francophone and the Anglophone communities find where the synergy is, where the complementarity is, where the strength is, and how to come together as a province and help forge our identity? Because there's some people who feel how New Brunswick goes and its identity on language issues will have a huge impact across the country. Today's guest is one of those people. Jean-Marie Nadeau is our guest today. He has a long history in this province of dealing with relations between Francophone community and Anglophone community. He's been a journalist. He's been the past president of Société des Acadiens de Nouveau-Brunswick, and we're very pleased to have him here today.
Good day. Good day.
Well, thanks for coming. It's
Pleasure.
Away we go. So I'd like to begin, as we were waiting for setup and talking about different things about, it's fascinating how New Brunswick is such a small place. And in a way, some people will say 1 degree of separation. We're all related to each other somehow. Or if you go in a coffee shop, you'll go, where are you from? Or where are you from? And you'll quickly make a connection. So it's fascinating then how our continued narrative about the English-French divide, it might not be as divided as we get from the media sometimes. So do you want to speak, because there's lots going on right now, whether it's the busing issue, whether it's the letter that was sent to CBC recently about anonymous comments posted on their website and changing the policy, you know? So if you're willing, let's go into that, because I have a hunch there's lots of solutions to be had.
See, for me, what I like from New Brunswick, it's a micro Canada, I think, and I like Moncton because it's a micro New Brunswick, and if we don't succeed to live harmoniously between both communities, I don't know. I wouldn't bet a lot on the future of Canada as for its difference, because I think Canadians in general care about Canada, and one part of it, it's bilingualism, but that's parole. That's only words.
Yes.
And in reality, it's not that clear. But on the other hand, see, New Brunswick Anglophones are about 15% bilingual.
Yeah.
If you compare to Canada, it's only 7%.
Yeah.
And that's the big problem, is their willingness to really make this country bilingual. We know Trudeau started it in the 70s. Sometimes he made it on the back of the Quebecers, especially the damn separatists, like he was saying. He was against nationalism, but he couldn't accept the Quebec nationalism, even the Acadian one and things like that. And that's part of the problem. I'm happy to see that Justin, the son, is not that arrogant, that anti-separatist, because they did create an atmosphere that wasn't good. But see, okay, so New Brunswick, we are double in terms of bilingualism for the Anglophone, but it's so fun when you have a young Anglophone New Brunswickers speaking French nationally, either in a business or personally. I have the chance to stick a little bit close to the artistic world, music world, and things. And I do have lots of young Anglophone friends. Like I was working with the New Brunswick Federation of Labour. Factually, I did work, even if I'm renowned as an Acadian patriotic I did work mainly in bilingual organizations with the Federation of Labour, Maritime's Fishermen's Union, and things like that. And I'm proud to have done that. And what's going on with CBC, the comments, I mean, like Trudeau said, we are in 2016. When will it stop? Personally, when I was a columnist, I did receive lots of dirty mail, and mails telling me go back to France, and to that I answer, we don't take boat anymore, we fly. But we have to have. We have something to prove, and that's why I like it from New Brunswick. I could have the chance to live in Quebec easily, especially I did write 5 books and things else. I'm an easy writer, and I would like to write more books and things like that. Yeah. But I chose my New Brunswick happiness instead of the Quebec one. Like I choose. See, I did international law in France. I did study in the University of Aix-Provence, international law and human rights. I wanted at that time to work in a diplomacy. But when I came back in New Brunswick in 1972-73, I realized that the underdeveloped country, or at least underdeveloped people, were my people.
It's right here.
Yeah. The UI rate was at 20%. People were desperate. They were burning wharfs and things like that. You had the big events in the north at that time. So I instead of writing my books or having a career in diplomacy, I did work for New Brunswick, with the sense that the more I help Francophone organization and people to grow, it would benefit to our friends Anglophone. Even in education, if we're fighting for more power for parents, if the kids just want it, Anglophones will go away. In that sense, I always had that in my mind. See, I'm not working, when I was working in education, making sure that a little Cajun kid has the better education. At the same time, I was as much preoccupied for little Anglophone and little Aboriginal, to create a better society.
It's
fun
fascinating.
to live. Let's help each other.
Yeah, it's it. Help each other and complementarity instead of conflict.
Yes.
And mainstream media takes a fair amount of the responsibility for how that story plays out in the public conversation, because they often frame it as a conflict model, either or black or white. But there was a little piece that popped up in a Maclean's article recently. Yeah. It was on the busing issue in New Brunswick. And if you indulge me, it's just a short paragraph, but this is from Maclean's. We'll post it on the website when we get this up on YouTube. In actual fact, busing children according to the language they speak doesn't appear to be more expensive. Now, this rolls out differently in how we talk about it in New Brunswick, and that's why I wanted to explore it, because we can bring some clarity. According to its 2015-16 budget, the province spends about $57 million a year on busing about 98,000 students, or roughly $580 a student. In contrast, Nova Scotia spends $910 a student. That never shows up in most of the conversations. So we have a struggle with understanding what we're dealing with ourselves, and that it's actually quite good. We never promote the good, and that the difference that we get into, now we need to go to court over busing different things because it's too expensive. Well, by contrast, it's not too expensive. It sounds fairly cost-effective.
It's on many questions like that, Either you think of investment or you're thinking of expense. It's the way, the scope you see things. Like in education in general, if you invest in education, it's better for all. I think investing in bilingualism was beneficial to New Brunswick. Well, if you look at the business of languages in New Brunswick is close to $1 billion, I think I would say. So that, especially for the Moncton area with all these call centers and things like that.
And seen as a strength. I remember when Levesque came to power in Quebec in '76, and the focus was on funding education, because he knew within one cohort, or 20 years, there'd be a different economy going on in the province once they funneled, a proportionate amount of money into the Francophone post-secondary education stuff. New Brunswick has so many advantages. We're that 1 degree of separation. We're close to each other geographically. We're the most populated. We're the 3rd or 4th most populated province in Canada by person per hectare. So we have access to each other. So how do we get over those things we throw in front of our own way as obstacles? And one of them is that language thing, because media keeps portraying it as a divide rather than a strength.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and you've been in it for your entire life, trying to get past that
Yes, I know.
hurdle.
I was even with the Cajun Party. We were fighting for the Canadian province in a certain sense. See, there's I did look at the United Nations countries. There's 26 countries less than 245 persons, habitants. If you look at the Vatican, if you look at Monaco and Liechtenstein and things like that.
Yeah.
So in theory, we could even think in terms of creating a new country, and that could be foolish. I'll have time to die a couple of times before it happened. Or being a province, knowing that Nova Scotia, it's 140,000 inhabitants only. But the idea of people wanting to, any people shall aspire to the maximum of autonomy, of independence. We're looking for that as individuals, I think, people.
Yeah.
But for me, the process is more important than the finality in a certain sense. So you have to have ideal, you have to think big to attain medium at least, or things. You have to aspire a lot.
Yeah.
But and even Acadians, we're looking at a way to not, if we compare to Quebec, not to get out of Canada, is to get in.
Yeah.
As an
Interrelated.
entity, as a contributor, and that's what we are in now. If you go look at the artistic world. We have Acadians of New Brunswick are very productive now on the national
Yes.
and international scene and things like that. Personally, I was very happy to launch the idea of the Acadian World Congress that every 5 years it will come back again in 2019.
Just to interrupt a sec, can you give us a sense of the scale, or give the audience a sense of the scale of that? How many thousands of people come to that?
But it's
World
they calculate
Congress
that
Mondial.
around 300,000 if you calculate 10 days at 30,000 people from elsewhere being around.
Yeah.
No, it's a business of $50 million.
Yeah.
Maybe it costs 12 million, but it brings back.
But it's more than just the money, isn't it?
Yes,
The gathering.
yes. Oh, yes, it's more than the money, and it's the world exposure. And if we had, when we had the International World French Summit in Moncton in 1999, I think it will come back soon. We're going to have the International World Games in 2021, also in Moncton, and that's a publicity. It doesn't cost. I mean, like the Trump making publicity for Cape Breton now, it's in the same field.
Yeah, more positive. though.
I hope you'll start to see that New Brunswick we have space also to welcome people. We could benefit from that. See, for me, is. The time as an Acadian I invest to fight for my rights and things like that is time I lose fighting to create job or to create art or to create. But personally, in New Brunswick, the atmosphere is neatly better than it was. I don't think we are. Maybe because of the media, you have more easily access to vomit people and things like that. But personally, I think there's a real new atmosphere that makes it more livable. But if we think in terms of politics, strangely, I think when you have Anglophone leaders, it's better for the French people than when you have Acadians in power, like we do have now.
Yeah.
I find that the Gallant government is so easy, he's so weak.
Yeah.
We prefer the Hatfield. So Hatfield at least was open-minded to Francophones and things like that, and put it in advance.
Well, that's one of those fun storylines from going back to that era, that Hatfield was the best liberal premier that we ever had, and because of his policies. And McKenna was the best conservative premier because of his policies. And how inverted it was, which then led us to kind of today, that we don't differentiate between the parties much. even though they're different colors and supposedly different philosophies.
It's the
How
same
the-
thing in the Canadian level. The
Yeah.
last federal elections, the Liberals won on the NDP program,
Yeah.
and the NDP lost on the Liberal program. So, geez,
It's fascinating. And you can't,
clarify you
and you
do
can't-
your homework. And
you remember where you come from.
Yeah.
But that maybe speaks to a change, a shift has happened. There's been a bit of a demographic shift. And maybe time to let go of the old paradigms, the old ideologies, and melt into something new, which will be where the breakthroughs will come from. Because New Brunswick's so small, and the business community is forever talking about it. We can innovate, we're small, we're light, we can move quicker. But when it's looked at through the political lens, we get this north-south divide, we get the English-French divide. And that, at some point, all those pieces have to fit together. And I see you as sitting on the boundary or the cusp of how that
I'm
happens.
definitely preoccupied of
Yeah, like, because,
creating wealth in New Brunswick and have new economic approach.
Yeah.
Personally, I think we have to go in the agro-food industry. We will not be able to continue to buy carrots and turnips from California. Yeah, we can make them grow here. So we'll have to create not going back to the lands like in old form, but creating
The new version.
new ventures, hot houses, big hot houses, like they do in Quebec.
Yeah, they've
In
got a-
Robertval, the city of Philippe Couillard, they have a 10,000-acre hot house just to grow vegetable. We shall have something like that here in New Brunswick.
we import 92% of our food. We only grow 8% of our own food.
Yeah, that's and also it's the same thing for the fishery. There should be a marriage between vegetable, the ground, the land, and the sea. We have it in the place. Let's have it
Yeah.
in the economy,
Yeah.
and create around that. I think that's that. And also, personally, we have an advantage. We were not industrialized too much, so we're not less polluted. So maybe
Yes.
we're going to be, all the Maritimes will be one of the only place where you're going to have clean air. People will like to come here for fresh air to,
Yeah.
And it could be done all year long. We're not enough inventive. See, even summertime, what do we like as a Cajun or Anglophone? It's to have bonfires at night with a beer.
Yeah.
But don't you think the tourists would like that too? So let's organize it,
Yeah.
in a certain sense. I mean, let's be innovative. And same thing for ski-doo wintertime.
Yep.
We have to go from shacks to shacks and having a
Yeah.
sing-along Jubilee party on the spot. Well, let's share that kind of quality of living. And things
That's
like
it.
that.
It's
And sometimes
quality of
we
life.
are too discreet, shy of showing who we are.
Yeah. The some of the tourism stories around the province, when on a hiking trail or down at Funday National Park, you'll hear people from away who've come to visit, and you ask them, "So why are you here?" "Oh, I like it because the tourists haven't found it yet."
Yes, that's it.
So there's that funny dynamic about you can look out on the St. John River most any time and maybe see 3 sailboats in the summertime. But if that was Ottawa, Hull, or Gatineau, there'd be 100 sailboats out there. Maine has gone through a major shift of the past 30, 40 years with what it looked like back then to what it looks
Yeah,
like
I
now
know,
for
I know
tourism.
what it is.
So a lot of people wouldn't want to go that far. But it definitely sounds like that would be a place where can we start to identify the things that Francophones and Anglophones agree on? Because we're all New Brunswickers and we're all 1 degree of separation because we're all related somehow. And then create that vision of the province. But that would get back to politics because they need to not use issues for the sake of winning a seat and use an issue for the sake of combining people's spirits and vision.
Exactly.
To then build a better province. How do we get that narrative rolled around?
But that we have to have people that have visions, and none of them has the short term and things like that. And I don't know, it will. But I'm encouraged by youth. Youth has never been so talented. Problem, they are not hardworking enough, perseverant.
Oh, you're going to pay
They're
for that
lazy.
one.
Oh, I don't mind. Have kids. I know that's the biggest problem with the guys. They're perseverant.
Yeah.
They have good ideas and they start and stop.
Yeah.
And they should keep on more long going and things like that. And I think because of the environment will be a clean space in the world, in the Occidental world. I think people will be interested to come to see us. If it's becoming true, if we have too much tourism, will take about 30, 40 years. For 30, 40 years, if we can make our people better living by creating new touristic attractions, go for it.
Yeah.
Go for it. But the idea is not to
Balance.
try to copy, cut and paste what's being done in America and things like that.
Yeah, good point.
And when you look also the fight you're having in St. John and in Moncton and in Bocaret to save the churches and things like that. Let's stop destroying and building more than 50 years old.
Yeah.
Let's start to save them. And
Yeah.
I know, and that why France is probably that received the most tourists in the world. It's because of the heritage they did conserve and things like that.
Yeah.
So. Yes, another thing too we have to realize, and I had a friend who made a study in 1997 on the fishing industry, realizing that 95,000 jobs are created in Atlantic Canada by the fisheries, but 105,000 jobs are created in Central Canada by the fisheries, because all the motor, all the equipment were built there, some manufacturing, some shipping were made. So there were more jobs being created by fisheries in Central Canada than so when Central Canada is talking about us as being dependent and things like that, I wonder who depends on us. If we were not buying trucks, cars, and things like that, they would. So in that sense, Canada has to be rethink also globally, and even pot growing.
Yeah.
We're specialists.
Yeah, it's going to get very interesting when we get down on that one.
See why they have the auto industry in Ontario and the airplanes and the drugs industry in Quebec. We should get at least the pot industry. We are specialists. We don't have to follow courses to make it grow.
Just legitimize it.
No, and we have to tax it. Firstly, I laugh at that, but I'm a little bit serious.
Oh, yeah.
We should have been. They tried it in a mine in Manitoba.
Yeah.
And it was really shit in the real term.
Yeah.
I mean, they didn't succeed.
Didn't succeed.
So
there's opportunities. Actually, if we could pause right there, we're getting near the halfway point.
already,
Yeah.
Jeez, you're interesting.
No, it's all yours. So we'll be back in a short minute after these few messages. Welcome back after that short pause. We're talking with Jean-Marie Nadeau, former or past president of the Acadian Society in New Brunswick, or the Société Acadienne Nouveau-Brunswick. He's an author, he's been an activist, politically involved, and all around New Brunswicker. So,
Hello.
and we begin again.
Yes.
So when we left off last, we were talking about the great and wonderful idea of growing marijuana in New Brunswick as part of an economic shift. And while we're making light of it, there is something to it, isn't there?
Yeah, but because for me it's only a question of thinking outside the box. I mean, if Canada was built on specialization like wheat in the west and now oil, and Ontario is automobile, Quebec trucks and planes, why not us a specialty?
Yeah.
That was fisheries, but it's not fisheries anymore. It will never be that big. And I find that marijuana, we should have been, we should have that industry because first we know how to grow it, to smoke it,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
also no, it looks easy and funny, but on the other hand, if we had a global plan for Canada for development, it could have been a good set. But the way it was launched now, I think BC will gonna have more plants than we're gonna have, and things like that.
And maybe not specific to marijuana,
Yeah.
because that's a specific thing, but you're also speaking to a process. There's something that New Brunswick has that a lot of other places in North America doesn't have. We have the 3 seacoasts. We have close proximity to the large American market.
Yes.
We have the bilingual population. We have all these pieces for us. We have space.
Yes.
So if it's not marijuana, maybe there's something else that...
Yeah, and in that field, I grow food. I mean, personally, I think we have to put fisheries and vegetables together to do value-added products and things like that. As Francophone, France is renowned, the country is renowned as the gastronomic society. We should have special connections with them to help us develop something on that. And I think it's still possible, but also the tourism industry, like I told you personally, I think it is a big possibilities up there too.
Yeah.
And but we have to do something. We cannot be always treated as wannabes. I mean, we're more than that. We would like to be contributors to Canada, and I think we are.
Food and water are going to become major themes over the next 20 or 30 years, especially as the world's population will double by 2050 or 2047. And we've got those things. So maybe those drivers, if there's more conversation about that, will help New Brunswick find what it has in common, because we have more in common than we have different. And if we can find a path through an identity, something that creates our identity, that will unify us.
I think in the computer industry also we shall have special attention on that. You have already something in Moncton and here in Fredericton. I'm seeing a possibility of also twinning city, but twinning cities with the goals, with action, like with Montreal. I think Montreal, Moncton, Boston, also because of the fishing industry. We shall create a new dynamics. David Allworth is our consul, the Canadian consul now in Boston. Let's take it as an advantage. I'm sure David is ready to do something for New Brunswick by the time he is there.
Yeah.
So let's propose him things to do. And Moncton and New Brunswick, if in a radius of 1,000 kilometers, we have 200 million people. So that's a lot we could deal with.
2 million,
Yeah, at least 200 million. You go as far as Philadelphia. And,
down that way.
Yeah. All around. If you look around, we did that when I was working in the Acadian Society, offering Europeans that the Maritimes, we should be also the door to America for many companies and things like that. We have the Belgian port that does nothing and things like that, the St. John one.
Yep.
I think we're missing a little bit dynamism in all that kind of the trade, and we are signing now a free trade agreement with Europe. There shall be more and more circulation and things like that, and I don't think politically we are well. We didn't put our feet well in the old business, the old economy. But
a similar theme that pops up in a different area was recycling. It seems like New Brunswick's well positioned, especially on that radius discussion that you mentioned, to be the place where a lot of recycling can be done, because we don't have enough population for some things, but we're close to those big populations. We have several deep water ports, and we've got a fairly well-educated bilingual workforce and we're looking for new things to do. So people will gravitate to IT and be excited about IT, but the past guest, Pat McCarthy from Recycle NB, was very animated about the job opportunities and the new industry that could be built using those same characteristics that you just described.
Yeah, it's only a question of willingness of to do things different and stop thinking that the only solution is moving west. Especially we know that west now is not an alternative anymore. Already it's not an alternative. I think we have to believe a little bit more in what we can do here at home.
Is it possible to the Francophone culture and its perspective has an awful lot to offer from the Anglophone approach to things? Because I kind of sit on both fences as well. Can see, this culture wants to move this way, and this culture. Is it maybe a time where the traditional business model that the Anglophones will tend to gravitate around needs to be let go of, and the breakthrough might occur from a cultural shift in what would be good for the province? I didn't frame it very well.
If you look at the economy in Moncton now, leadership is Francophone. I mean, in terms of economic development after the collapse of the CN railways, shops and things like that. So, and the languages industry, what we call centers, was the alternative. But it's going a little bit further now in terms of there's more and more furniture in this industry also in the Moncton area, the building windows and doors and things like that, and it's getting more. And I think the special relation we have with France, with the new development of that free trade, I think we have a role to play in that sense. Bring more intelligence from France to our own economy, again in the agriculture field and fishing field, but I think in many other fields. But
fields too.
Well, see, I don't know. In the States, we go every year at the big fish show in Boston.
Seafood show.
And we know that the Americans now, like in the lobster industry, it's collapsing. Here we are. We did take good measures, raising the minimum size of the lobster we keep. And now the fishermen are fishing over 40,000 pounds a year instead of 15. It tripled the amount, and it's a quality. The Asian, the Chinese are ready to eat our lobster and crab. And in that sense, there's a lot of potential that personally I see. And University shall work a little bit more together. I know in Cancer Institute in Moncton is doing, and it's getting renowned. Here in Fredericton, you have the engineer, the mechanic engineer, like doing new legs. It's marvelous. We don't realize that we have updated, and it's the first time that New Brunswick is at the same technological level than the world. In that sense, we don't have.
We have so many areas where we've got an expertise and a skill set that is world class.
Yes,
that's
just, what I think.
Yeah, we just don't know it ourselves. It's not, and slowly we'll get to expose more and more of those stories.
And good. We are a little bit too much humble, maybe on what we have and what we do, but we'll see.
So also in the mix for you is this notion, talk about outside the box thinking, of running for a Senate seat.
Yes.
Right? Because the issue of an elected Senate versus an appointed Senate continues to rumble around in Canadian culture, and somewhere you've got the energy and the inspiration to start that conversation.
Yeah, because probably the Senate will disappear one day, but as long as it's still there, we're not being in. Personally, one little frustration I had is I was never elected MLA or I never tried city councillor. I'll present myself as the health authority representative, probably again this time. But for the sake of it, we decided to launch an electoral process for senator in New Brunswick because You know, the Senate, at least Maritimes, we do have 26% of the power at the Senate level. And at the Parliament level, it's only 9%. We are, even with the last elections, with the adding of 30 new seats, we are marginalized. I mean, it's terrible. We're just a suburb of Toronto, as it is now, the all Atlantic Canada. So going into the Senate, for me, and the Senate is supposed to be a place where you fight for rights of regions and minorities and things like that. And I think there's still lots of work to do there. Personally, I would like to work on issues like that, like relations between French and English, relations with Aboriginal people, First Nations, equality men of women, and also literacy. So that those are fields I would like to work on specifically, because on literacy, a question, New Brunswick, it's a big deception since 1970. I hear that we are over 60% illiterate. So how come that number didn't change really during those 40 or 50 years and things like that? So the Senate for me would be a good occasion to contribute to the growing of New Brunswick, to assure the president. I'm a showman in a little sense, like Yvon Godin, and make sure that if Nadeau is at the Senate, they'll hear about New Brunswick in the column. And things like so. With friends, I'll do a tour of New Brunswick, mainly Francophone New Brunswick, for doing speeches and things like that, and try to create a momentum to be elected, because they really said, the Liberals said that it's non-partisan. Well, let's prove it. I think I'm one of the good guys, born in northwestern New Brunswick, lived 15 years in the northeastern, now 20 years in the southeastern. I did live all around New Brunswick and live in Montreal, France, and I speak Spanish too a little bit, German a little bit. I think I have lots of essays that I could contribute, and I'm specialized in international law and human rights, and I think there could be fields that could be useful in Ottawa. But that's, we'll see.
Yeah, are you aware of anyone else who might have tried it this way?
No, I think I'll
be the first.
I like to be to invent, to create. So with friends, I have a professor, Grenier of the University of Moncton. He's my campaign manager, and we'll try it and try to pick up some signatures if it needs 2,000, 5,000, 10,000. And also I know well Dominique Leblanc. I know these guys. So if they are really sincere, looking for. Because it was supposed to be created to defend regions and minorities. And we know the Senate lost its mission because it was too partisan. It was a tool, not a tool, in the hands of the governing party. They were doing what they want with that, giving seats to their friends just to make sure that they wouldn't bother us by the.
It's lost its authenticity that way.
Yes, but I think one day we shall have a presidential Canada. I mean, we shall. Some provinces had the senates before, and they don't have it anymore. I think it will disappear, especially if they don't change, or they come back to the roots of the Senate. But I'm saying by the time it's still there, we're not being there.
But you're starting the conversation. And that speaks to another thing when talking about political reform. There are some people that will throw the bullseye or throw the dart at the politician, saying that they want a different politician. Why are politicians all the same? Oh, you're this way before you're elected, you're this way after you're elected. But and therefore they want political reform. So they want a proportional representation model or some other versions of models. But it may be, as you just spoke, it might be the system is fine. It just needs to go back to its original purpose, its original roots. Because the Senate, once upon a time, did perform its function accordingly until it became politicized and it was appointees for rubber stamping, or how we understand it from the outside anyway. Same thing with provincial legislatures or the federal government. It might be the process works. We just need to change how we approach it. Go back to respecting the rules, being authentic, transparent, those sorts of things. Do you think that's possible? Instead of reinventing the whole thing, maybe if we just
But personally, a thing I remember is that Justin Trudeau said it's the last election we will have under these conditions. So personally, I think there will be change and a proportional vote and things like that. And most of the greatest countries in the world, they do have that kind of system. I'm thinking of Germany, Australia, New Zealand, and I mean, in Europe, France, and things like that. I think we have to get there too, because Canada is now a diversity. It's not only French and English. I mean, you go in British Columbia and you think you're living in China and things like that. So I think we have to express the diversity, and proportional vote is the only way you can get alternatives, alternate parties and things like that. And that's why the NDP would have, or the Green Party would have scored better than they did historically. Personally, I'm more and more green at the provincial level and staying NDP at the federal level. But I was close to switch to Liberal the last election because
it resonated.
I like what's going on. Canada is already renewed. If you get to the disastrous Harper days, it was terrible. Even traveling in Europe you were ashamed to travel in Europe because people were spotting you on environment questions. Also belligerent. We were perceived as being belligerent a little bit more. We were one-track mind with Israel, forgetting about the Palestinians and things like that. So no, there's lots of potential in that. And anyway, I think Canada is still a young country, and we have to modernize our electoral system and making sure that we keep that diversity there.
Tied to immigration, grade 9 geography teacher for me. I remember him teaching, we have 1/3 the world's fresh water supply, and we're the second largest country by landmass. And I remember thinking, goodness, one day everybody's coming here. And that day's coming. It's a lot closer now, especially as the world's population is going to double. So there'd be even more pressure, do you think, on political processes or political leadership to create that balance in community? I mean, Canadian discussion's always been a melting pot or a mosaic. You know, what are we? And there's going to be more pressure on that as there's 3 or 4 languages spoken instead of just 2.
Oh, yes. There's some countries, they have 5 languages, official languages until that. There's a place in Spain, northern Spain, is Catalogne. I don't know what's in English, but their separatist part of... They learn 5 languages before the age of the grade 12, and they're proud to learn. You know, if you look at the Netherlands, it's the same thing. They learn at least 4 or 5 languages at high school, and in that sense, I find that sad that they were not even happy to study at least 2. And on the other hand, the Americans envy us because we have the bilingual identity. And if it's a real value, you don't. Canada is only investing half of 1% of its budget in bilingualism in Canada. It's not a lot if it's a profound value, I find, in terms of investment and things like that.
Do you think one day it'll get into trilingual and quadrilingual investment?
Oh, that shall probably be possible. Spanish and Cantonese probably for Western Canada. And I'm not afraid, and maybe Arabic, why not? But if the peaceful Arabic and things like that, But here in New Brunswick, we have a little problem in terms of immigration, even the Syrians coming. None were directed to the Francophone community. For us, it's a threat also, in terms of number. If we were, in 1960, Acadians, we were 38.7% of the population in New Brunswick. But for the first time now, we are 29.7. So suddenly we lost in 9 years, 9% of percentage in 50 years.
Yeah. And some of that
so
would be...
It's still preoccupying for Francophone.
Preserving your culture.
Even some people think that we stole all jobs and invade and things like that. You know?
It shouldn't be as difficult a conversation as it is, because we have more in common than we don't. It's just that not understanding the desire to preserve a culture, and yet there's many in all cultures that want to preserve their particular culture. The real question should be, where's the fit? Where do we get to share the space? Wade Davis has a lovely book called The Wayfinders, and it's about how cultures have gone away. And it's not to say it's good or bad, there's no judgment, it's just tracking it. People know it by species. They know environmental degradation or species going extinct. But there's been more cultures and languages that have gone extinct than there have been those things. So the heartfelt question is, how do we live together in the shared space, preserving each other's identity, because that identity goes into making the whole. Because you've mentioned it several times, our bilingual nature gives us so many advantages, and if we make it a trilingual nature, it gives us so many advantages. So how can we let go of that feeling threatened and seeing it as a complementarity?
We don't teach history well also at school, and if it was better taught, I think you would have a better knowledge of the other communities and things like that. And also personally, I'm confident because the 17% of bilingual Anglophone, who people who are called the moderates, they have an active role to play a little bit more. I see that Dawn Arnold will probably be the new mayor of Moncton. She's a true Francophile, and things. And we have more and more of that kind of people being Anglophone, recognizing the contribution of not only recognizing, loving,
embracing
Francophonie,
it.
Embracing it.
That was my question earlier about.
And it's being done more and more. I think Moncton, like I told you, it's a micro New Brunswick, and we start to succeed quite well in Moncton in terms of relations between both linguistics. Especially, you have shows now with French and English, and no, it's personally. We have to challenge ourselves as being. We have to succeed in New Brunswick. Yeah. If we don't succeed in New Brunswick, Canada will be a failure. So in that sense, we have a responsibility, and I'm part of that. The people who take that responsibility. I want to build.
And our responsibility to make it better for the next generations to come too, because we're finally modeling, this is how we do it, and they can follow in behind.
Yes, and it's better done more and more, I think. Yeah. But we have to accelerate the process. I don't know what the decision the government will going to take on the first year immersion or not. But the thing is sure, we have to find means to make sure that most of the kids in New Brunswick are bilingual. I'm so sad when I go at the McDonald's, I don't go too often, but you have a unilingual young Anglophone, 16, 17, at least say hello, bonjour. Combien? That I cannot understand. Yeah. I cannot.
Good. We have a couple of minutes left.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. How would you like to end this? And thank you so much for wandering in. My hope was that the show was a small example of how where the openings are, where the solutions are in the relations, and in a direction for the province. Final thoughts to close this out?
Personally, when I was president of the Acadian Society in New Brunswick, I would have and I told that to David Alway, I would have liked to to go around New Brunswick, especially in Anglophone areas, to have dialogues and things like that. I think we shall multiply these occasions of 75% of the people living in southern New Brunswick, 75% never went northern of Miramichi. And when they go there, they discover nice places, beaches. Miscou Island is so nice, and Caracat and things like that. That's one thing we shall do, is maybe better start to travel our province and visit each other a little bit more. But I think there should be tour of different conferences. People do not, from Caracat, do not know well St. Andrews or St. Stephen or... So in that sense, let's start with us. Let's start visit us. And personally, I'm always surprised and to find out that many Anglophones, they don't really realize what Caracat or Chupagan or Tracadie is. That's the other thing. I think we have to have more confidence in ourselves. And personally, I'm optimistic for the future, because I think we'll have to go back to farms, the lands and the sea, to the basics. But what we have to do better than we did in the past is put these, especially fish and produce, make it to better to transform it and things like that. We'll be obliged anyway. We can buy vegetables from California for the years to come. It will be too costly, and it's already costly. So the last 2-3 months, it went up to 20%. I mean, and anyway, personally, I'm a New Brunswick lover and an Acadian lover of New Brunswick.
Merci beaucoup pour faire de cette interview en anglais.
Oh, thank you. I'm not used to do that.
Oh,
to speak English 1 hour.
And all the thoughts.
Except when I'm drinking with friends.
Again, thanks. And thank you for watching. As always, you can catch the program also posted on YouTube under the Dennis Report. And as always, have fun, be good, and love each other.